SB 616, and I'll hand the gavel over to Senator Benaquisto.
Senators, we're on Senate Bill 878. Oh, sorry. You didn't move the tab. That's okay. Senators, we're on tab 11, Senate Bill 616, Concealed Weapons or Firearms by Senator Stubbe. And Senator Stubbe, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill would allow a licensed permit holder to approach a courthouse, identify that he's a licensed permittee, surrender his firearm to security personnel or law enforcement at the courthouse, go into the courthouse without a firearm, and on the way out of the courthouse, go back to that security personnel checkpoint, receive his firearm back, and then exit the courthouse.
Thank you, Senator Stubbe. Do we have any questions? Senator Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the analysis, it talks about courthouses may needing to have lockers. How else would the firearms be stored if they don't have lockers? And then are we going to be budgeting for those lockers in the state budget?
Senator Stubbe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's every courthouse is different, and the courthouse in Sarasota and Manatee County, where I tend to frequent on occasion, they have sealed rooms where I would assume that they could use, and they wouldn't have to have lockers where they could secure the firearms. It would be up to the security agency or the law enforcement personnel to make that decision.
Follow up.
Of course, Senator Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The second question I have is, the carrying of the weapon up to and inside the courthouse and then receiving it before you actually leave the courthouse. Is that regardless of why the person is coming to the courthouse? In other words, whether they're coming to court for, say, a domestic violence issue or some other type of case, as opposed to just being a spectator?
It would only be licensed permit holders. So if they were accused of a domestic violence injunction, they wouldn't have a license. If they had been accused or charged with a crime, they wouldn't have a license. We're only talking about licensed concealed carry permit holders. That yes, any of those individuals would come to the security personnel, announce to the security guard and/or law enforcement, show their valid ID. That individual would check to make sure that they have a valid ID, and then they would secure the firearm however they wanted to secure the firearm.
Just one more thing.
Yes, ma'am. Senator Gibson.
So can you explain the domestic violence issue once again? So they're showing up to court, and you're saying they are not allowed to have the firearm. And also, so I won't ask any more questions, what is the current process to approach a courthouse with a firearm?
Currently, if you have a concealed license permit, you could approach the courthouse, but you couldn't enter because the courthouse is a gun-free zone. The challenge has been, and as a lawyer who's practicing family law on dependency type issues that tend to get emotional, people that have a permit, judges can carry in their chambers, but we as lawyers who practice in whatever we practice, we have to keep our firearms locked up. State attorneys have to keep their firearms locked up. You have to walk to the courthouse, and you're not allowed to you can't have a weapon during that time. So this is just enabling those individuals that have a valid license to walk up, show they have an ID, surrender their firearm, and then you can get it on the way back out. If you've committed a crime or you've been accused of a domestic violence, anything, and you have a domestic violence injunction against you, you can't have a permit. Your permit would be revoked. Yeah.
Senator Gibson, I'm sure for the follow-up part of that question that...
And I'll be done. I'm sorry, Madam Chair, because I keep hearing the if. So if you don't have it, but is it possible to go to the courthouse for a domestic violence case and not yet have an injunction? And therefore, you would still be able to have your firearm. That's my question.
If you have a license, a valid, active license, you would be able to go to the courthouse, surrender that firearm to the law enforcement, and then get it on the way out.
Senator Thurston for a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Stubbe, I know we're from different parts of the state, but has there been some instances that I just don't know about of where it's been a problem from the parking of the car to the courthouse, that there's been some major things going on that we have a major need for that firearm for that short period of time? Am I missing something?
Senator Stubbe, you recognize.
I can't tell you how many lawyers I've had in my district that have told me that they've had their lives threatened, that they have very contentious cases, and they have a concealed carry permit, and they carry all the time, and they can't carry from their car to the courthouse because they can't carry in the courthouse. So this would give a mechanism for those individuals who want to be able to defend themselves when they're leaving the courthouse or on their way to the courthouse, to have their firearm with them, properly surrender it to law enforcement, still keeping the courthouse as a gun-free zone, and then on the way, as you're exiting, get your firearm back.
Yes, sir. Follow up, Senator Perry.
I guess, I can see that scenario, although I've never heard of it. It's just that I'm asking you, is there some documented instances where between the parking lot, because I'm assuming if you've got it, you can keep it in your car as you go into the courthouse. But is there some documented times where clients or witnesses have been attacked, someone has been attacked between the car and the courthouse that I've kind of just missed? I'm asking you, is there anything on file, on record, where that has happened?
I can remember, and I think I was in law school, and this happened a while ago, where there was a lawyer who was hiding behind a tree with his briefcase while somebody was shooting around the tree with a revolver. That's an instance that I recall. I don't remember if it happened here in Florida or in a different part of the country. I don't have any instances in front of me, but I can certainly research that and get it back to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Additional questions? Seeing none, we do have some public testimony. Shayna Lopez Rivas, on behalf of Students for Concealed Carry, speaking for. Thank you. Keith Flaw, Florida Citizens Alliance, wants to speak for the bill. And then next up, we'll have Eric Friday.
Madam Chair, I'm representing Florida Citizens Alliance. We have 80 grassroots groups that we work with across the state and many thousands of constituents. We strongly urge you to support this bill and the other open carry bills you'll hear. We're going to ask you, and I'm going to do this rhetorically because I know you can't react, but I'm going to ask you to ponder 3 questions. If your life or your family's life is threatened, do you have the right to defend your life? We hope you answer yes. Where does that right come from? Some might say it comes from the Constitution. We disagree. It comes from God. And the Constitution just guarantees that right. So our final question is, what right, even as our elected officials, do you have to take away the right of somebody walking to the courthouse, doing their job, to take away their right to defend their life if threatened? We don't think you do, and we urge you to support this bill and the other open carry bills that will come before you. Thank you.
Next, we have Eric Friday, and after that, Sandra Atkinson.
Afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Eric Friday. I represent Florida Carry, a firearms rights organization. I can tell you that as an attorney, as a person who's practiced in approximately 26 counties of our state so far, I see a need for this bill. I can tell you, Senator Thurston, that I have been personally threatened by opposing parties in domestic violence cases as well as in civil cases where credible threats were made that made me wish I was able to carry as far as the courthouse from a parking lot. Different counties have different situations where you might walk a block or 2 or 3 blocks to a courthouse depending on where you are. So yes, there is a real need for it. In researching a related matter, I discovered that up until 1991, Duval County actually had an administrative order by the chief judge that allowed for licensees to check their firearms in the Duval County Courthouse. Additionally, we have domestic violence victims who must come to court for their injunctions, and they are disarmed going to and from the courthouse while they are there seeking an injunction against an individual that they believe is going to harm them.
Senator Powell, you had a question, I believe? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, 2 questions? What
Start with
type?
the first one.
Okay. What type of law do you practice?
I practice family and criminal defense, sir.
And with that, you've been threatened. Has someone pulled a gun on you?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Friday?
No, sir, I have not. It has not reached that point yet. I have been followed from courthouses. I've had one incident where I was followed from a courthouse, but nobody has actually accosted me on the way into or out of the courthouse. However, I am aware of a female attorney in Duval County who has had to obtain special dispensation to be allowed to carry her stun gun and check it at the courthouse due to a stalker that she had.
Senator Thurston?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Friday, if you had that gun, how would that situation have changed?
Mr. Friday, if you'd like to respond.
Senator Thurston, fortunately, because nobody accosted me going into or out of the courthouse on that occasion, I was not put in a position of having to use a firearm. However, I am a firm believer in the ability to defend oneself. I have taken training to do so, and the reality is most concealed carry holders, historically, statistically, throughout the country, have been able to successfully defend themselves in cases of assault. Professor Gary Kleck of Florida State University has done extensive research in this area and has shown time and again most people are able to defend themselves from a violent encounter if they are armed, for the simple reason that by being armed, they're able to deter the criminal even if the gun is never fired just by presentation of the firearm. So the fact, according to Dr. Kleck's research, concealed carry, lawful possession of firearms is a very effective method of self-defense.
Follow up?
Yeah, but didn't you indicate that you were able to avoid any type of confrontation even without the firearm? My question is simply, if you had the firearm, what would have happened differently?
Mr. Friday, please.
Senator Thurston, on the two credible threats that I've had, neither individual chose to attempt to take action at the courthouse. So no action was actually taken. They were credible threats, but no action was ever taken by these individuals. Quite frankly, both individuals, to my opinion, were cowards, and their abuse of their spouses or significant others were the primary motive, were the primary thing that they could handle. They weren't willing to face another man in that situation.
Thank you. Mr. Friday, if you please continue your testimony.
Thank you. While during the early questioning, there was asked if there had been any incidences that could be documented. Just in a brief few seconds that I had before coming up here, I found a case in Tarrant County, Texas, December 7th of 16, a case in Broward County, April 29th of 16, both of which involved attacks just outside the courthouse, one on a juror and one on another person coming into the courthouse. So yes, sir, there have been attacks. This is a real situation. Again, as I stated before, Duval County did used to have this as an option in their administrative order. I see no reason why it can't be mandated that all courthouses throughout the state and the members of Florida Carry and our concealed carry licensees in this state, of whom are the most law-abiding population in our state, would ask that you pass this bill to give them an option so that they are not disarmed. And I will add one other point. That's one less gun that's sitting in a car to be stolen from a car. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Friday. Next, we'll hear from Sandra Atkinson with the Okaloosa Republican.
Hello, Senators. I appreciate y'all for coming, and if I could have your attention just for about 90 seconds so I could tell you why I would like you to support this bill. I'm former military, and I am a concealed permit holder. And when I first saw this bill, I was like, well, what's the big deal? Just leave it in your car or leave it at home and go to the courtroom and do your business and then go back and, be with your gun and be happy. So I thought about it and I asked a lot of people and I said, well, what do you think of this? And they said, well, if I go down to the courthouse, I might have to do some shopping downtown. So, I'm in the big city, I'm from a small town or whatever, their personal situation may be. They might feel safer if they're able to carry their weapon around town shopping. Also, I know I live in Fort Walton Beach, which is smaller than Tallahassee, obviously. And when I have to go park in these parking garages to attend meetings like this, I kind of feel uneasy going through these dark parking lots and, row by row where anyone could be hiding to attack me. So I feel more secure if I can have a weapon with me. And also, if I leave my gun in my car and I go to the courthouse, and then I want to go back downtown shopping, I have to go all the way back down to my car to get my gun so I can feel safe to go sidewalk shopping or whatever the case. And sometimes I want to wear heels. And as ladies know, it's uncomfortable to walk blocks and blocks in high heels. So just as a fashion sense, I would like to also be able to keep my weapon. So those are my reasons, the parking garages and the distance for shopping. And having your weapon. So please, those are the reasons I would like y'all to support this bill. We should be able to have a weapon with us and not have to go back and forth to our car and feel safe and secure in the parking lot garages. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Atkinson. Next, we'll have Lois Valdez with, she's a private citizen. Mr. Valdez, sorry.
Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a 10-year law enforcement veteran officer in the state of Florida, and I support this bill. In February 2005, in Smiths County, Texas, Mrs. Maribel Estrada and David Hernandez Arroyo Jr. were shot and killed while attending the court. The ex-husband of Miss Maribel pulled a firearm and attacked them as they were leaving the parking lot and going to the courthouse. Within that incident, Texas at the time had a similar law as Florida does. You can't bring your firearm into and even secure it in a courthouse. So they did what every law-abiding citizen does. They left their gun in their car and they walked. And while walking, her ex-husband laid in wait and attacked them. Killed Mr. Estrada, killed Maribel, his own 23-year-old son, David Hernandez Jr., and 2 Texas police officers. As a law enforcement officer myself, I strongly support this bill. The public has a right to defend themselves, but sadly, when seconds count as a cop, I'm minutes away. And even though you have law enforcement officers on staff at a courthouse, they're still inside, they still have to run outside, and they have to engage the subject. Why not give the people that extra second of self-defense? It's not right, it's not correct, and it's not fair. If we're a state that promotes equality for everyone, we shouldn't restrict people from being able to defend themselves wherever they go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Roy Bladou. Is that?
Mr. Chairman, other members of the committee, I'm speaking in opposition to the bill. I'm a retired federal prosecutor. I've been a Navy JAG lawyer and a state prosecutor for over 40 years. There's no need for this bill. Is this a huge problem in the state of Florida? Are people being mowed down as they go from their car to the courthouse? I know that the gun lobby would like everyone to have a gun all the time and everywhere. Why? Who are these people that are so afraid to walk the streets, to go from their car to the courthouse? Where are they? I don't know of any people that are that paranoid. Who's afraid to go shopping downtown without a gun? It's like a comfort dog. You want a gun to go with you every place you go. It's not necessary. This bill is not necessary. You're wasting the time of the legislature to have all this time taken up with a proposal that's not going to affect anybody. In my experience as a prosecutor in New Orleans, if you're attacked, you don't have time to pull a gun out. You're going to be shot or before you even know it. You don't have time to defend yourself. Most people can't defend themselves even if they have a gun. They have to pull it out. They have to hope it's loaded. They have to know what they're doing. Florida carry, you don't have to, in order to get a permit to carry a gun in Florida, all you have to have as a minimum is 2 hours of classroom instruction. You don't even have to touch a gun. These people with these permits to carry a gun are not qualified, in most cases, to use a gun.
Mr. Blunt, thank you for your testimony. Thank you.
Anyway, can I add one thing? There's been cases where people have gone to the courthouses that allow it and left their gun with the police or with the guards. They go in, they listen to testimony. They leave the courthouse, they take their gun, they lie in wait. When the witness comes back, when the wife comes back, they shoot them after they've heard the testimony. Guns should not be everywhere. That's why we have the highest murder rate in the world, because there's too many guns.
Thank you, sir. Then we have Stephen
Thank you.
Bass, who is waiving his time in support of the bill. We are back on the bill. Is there debate on the bill? Is there debate on the bill? Senator Flores, in debate on the bill.
Thank you very much. And it's a debate slash question. And I'd like the sponsor to, well, why don't I ask a question first? Can we do that?
We can go back to questions.
Okay, I'm sorry.
As President Pro Tem, you can go have a question.
Okay. Okay. So I want to first ask a question, and then there's another question that I'll debate. But I do have a question for the sponsor with regards to, I think your overall intention with this specific bill. It's not a secret, and we know that where you stand on gun issues, and that's very respectful. And I think we all are here to represent our own elected individuals from different parts of the state that have obviously very varying viewpoints. This bill, as I read it, is very specific in nature, but there might be some concern that the statute that it relates to is, of course, rather broad. And so I would be hesitant to vote for this bill if your intention would be to expand it beyond anything that we talk about today. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on that issue.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and that's a very fair question. No, my intention is to keep this specifically directed towards courthouses, and therefore that would be the issues that it would address moving forward.
And then just to clarify, as a session moves forward, it's only day one. It seems like day 50 for lots of us, but it's only day one, and obviously lots of things will happen. As issues move forward and this bill moves, and maybe other bills move forward, maybe other bills don't, but of course the House will have proposals as well, and there would be potential amendments that could be added to this bill to expand it beyond its scope. What would be your thoughts on that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My thoughts would be just like I stated. It would specifically only relate to courthouses on this bill.
Thank you. Is there a debate? Senator Thurston in debate.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to debate because I probably couldn't ask a question like the President Pro Tem. But I do want to say this. I agree with my President Pro Tem in that we all come from various districts that we represent, and people do have differing viewpoint, and I respect that. And based on that, I certainly want to thank Senator for filing the bill. However, I do think that, as the President Pro Tem has indicated, this is day one. This is day one, and we have a specific bill that will allow you to take your gun from your car to the courthouse. when we talk about, and I'm debating against the bill because I do think that the gentleman who indicated that it's not necessary, certainly I don't see it as being a necessary bill. And I do think that there's so much serious criminal justice reform that we do need for this to be day one, that this is what we're debating and using the time of the legislature when we could really look at serious criminal justice issues that our Innocence Commission has told us that would have stopped Mr. Lindsay from being in jail for that period of time and gave him some relief. But this is what we're doing on day one, and I just don't see this as something that we should be doing at this time. And I'm going to vote against this bill, and I urge the other committee members to vote against it also.
Thank you. In debate, President Flores.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the answer to the questions. And so I want to debate for a moment, not just for the committee, but I think it's an issue and important to debate to those who are here today, to our concerned citizens from across the state. You all have come here to listen, and I hope that you all continue to come up every week and every day as is necessary to talk about gun issues. So the reason why I specifically asked those questions, and I appreciate not just a commitment of the sponsor, but I know that there's a commitment of the rules chair as well and others, is that we respect each other in this process, and we respect the fact that we come from different backgrounds. And the different, we represent different parts. So here's a very limited situation where the gun would not be allowed to actually even be brought into the courtroom, but would rather have to be surrendered on the way before coming in, which in a way will almost help law enforcement to understand exactly who is entering the building with a gun. But here's, my concern, as stated, is that if this bill expands, if this bill or if any other bill expands beyond its current scope, it's something that I will not vote for. Not only will I not vote for, but I have the commitment of the chair of this committee, the sponsor of this bill, that this bill will not be beyond that. Because if then that happens, then all of a sudden, when you look at the vote on this committee, those who voted yes for this bill were the ones who allowed for us to vote yes on future gun bills. And not only do I have a problem with that, I know that my colleagues here have a problem with that as well. And so I take Senator Stubbe at his word. I know that he will be faithful to that, and that he will relay to the others that have other gun bills, including himself, because he's got a lot of them, that, he and I do not see eye to eye on probably any of the other gun bills. I do not support having guns on campus. I do not support having guns in airports. I don't support having guns in school zones. I don't support those things. And Senator Stubbe feels differently, and that's fine. But this is where we are this year. And so anything that goes beyond that is something that I won't allow happen in the Senate. And it's, I was going to say I don't normally say such strong words in committee, but that's actually not true at all. I do. But for those of you that know me, you know that maybe it's because I sometimes use those strong words, that my word and my commitment is something that I hold to be very sacred. Gun issues will continue perhaps to be debated. I don't know if they'll continue to be debated in this committee because these would be bills that I wouldn't be in support of. And so if this bill becomes anything beyond this, I'm confident to have the commitment, not just of the chairman, but of every member of this committee and of every member of our chamber to say it's not going to go beyond to where we are now. And so I just want to share that. Thank you for that indulgence and for that time. Thank you for that time.
Thank you. Senator Garcia in debate.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll be brief, and I'm just going to echo some of the sentiments. That is harsh, but I want to echo the sentiments Senator Flores stated. But listen, I think we all respect the institution. We understand how the institution works, and the Senate we respect it and respect each other's members and the policies that we bring forward. But I too agree with Senator Flores. If this is the end all to this, then I think we can move this bill forward with that understanding. But I just want to add, working in mental health and dealing with the mental health community for the last couple of years, every time we have this issue of guns, we have this debate in a vacuum. And we always forget that at least when you look at a lot of the massacres that have happened across this nation and here in Florida, a lot of the common denominator has always been a lack of mental health diagnosis or a lack of treatment. And as long as we continue to have these conversations without talking about the underlying issues that really are affecting our community, and here in the state of Florida, which is that, unfortunately, the state of Florida is towards the bottom when it comes to mental health funding and treatment. And I feel very confident and positive that the governor now is investing millions of dollars now into the treatment of mental health, putting money into the mental health treatment, and I applaud him for that. But we still are missing that conversation when it comes to this issue of the gun debate. So I bring that up now, and I know some people are saying, why is he bringing up mental health? But it's that important to me. And when we look at all a big number of the mass shootings that we've had in this country throughout the last couple of years, the common denominator has always been that. And we have to start addressing that issue. We cannot have this conversation in a vacuum anymore. Too many people are suffering, too many people are hurting, and we have to make sure we have access to these treatments. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and vote for this bill, and I encourage our members to vote their conscience and do what they need to do, always understanding that we have to have this conversation about mental health.
Thank you, Senator Garcia. Any other debate, members? Any other debate? I'd just like to say one comment, and I'm going to support this bill. I think we tend to forget that the guns are not killing people. People are killing people with guns, and you can't take the rights from others because we're not doing what we need to do in a society to make sure our kids understand what consequences are when you use a gun. I agree 100% on the mental health. We do not spend enough money in mental health, and we are not taking care of that issue. But people that have went through the process, that have a concealed weapons permit, and I am one of those that believe that it is a God-given right for us to protect ourselves and to carry a gun. But we have to be responsible, and we have to make sure we're responsible. I think this bill is narrow enough that it's a good one to get through. If you have the right permit to carry a gun, you go into a courthouse, you check it in, they have the procedures and the process necessary to do so, and then you get it when you leave. So I agree with Senator Stubbe on this, and I will be voting in favor of this bill. And Madam Chair, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Any additional debate? Seeing none, Senator Stubbe, you're recognized to close on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate all the senators' debate and all of their comments, and I look forward to working with them this session as we move things through the process. And with that, I'd ask for your favorable support.
Thank you. Having closed on the bill, Joyce will please call the roll on Senate Bill 616.
Senator Bracy? No. Senator Flores? Yes. Senator Garcia? Yes. Senator Gibson? No. Senator Mayfield?
Yes.
Senator Powell?
No.
Senator Thurston? No. Chair Stubbe?
Yes.
Vice Chair Benaquista?
Yes, and by your vote, the bill is reported favorably. I'll give the chair back to you, Senator Stubbe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Show SJR 910 temporarily postponed. Show SB 912 temporarily postponed. Show SB 262 temporarily postponed. And show SB 646 temporarily postponed. Is there any other business before the committee? Seeing none, Senator Benaquista moves we adjourn. Without objection, this meeting is adjourned.